When the mind feels lonely, it is easy to believe that you are completely separate from everything around you. Yet time in nature quietly reminds you that you are still part of something much larger, held inside a living world that continues to breathe, move, and grow all around you. Even when you are physically alone, the presence of trees, wind, water, and distant hills can soften the edges of loneliness and give your heart a place to rest. Psychologists sometimes call this gentle effect of the natural world soft fascination. It means your attention is lightly held, but never overwhelmed. The mind watches small movements and subtle sounds without effort, and because it does not have to work hard, it finally has space to wander and reflect. In that space, even when you feel lonely, it becomes a little easier to notice tiny moments of joy again, the rhythm of your breath, a memory that warms you, or the simple relief of not having to rush anywhere at all. In mountain places, this feeling can deepen into something even quieter. Being alone in the mountains can slowly shift loneliness into peaceful solitude. At first, the quiet can feel like an empty echo, but as time passes, you may begin to feel that you are choosing this quiet, instead of being left behind by the world. The silence becomes less like a void and more like a soft blanket around your thoughts, giving you permission to be exactly as you are, without explaining anything to anyone. Researchers who study time in green and blue spaces have found that places like forests, rivers, and lakes can gently lift self-esteem and strengthen your sense that life has meaning. Simply being near trees or water can help your mind step back from harsh self-judgment and constant comparison. Even if the circumstances of your life have not changed, the presence of living landscapes can remind you that your story is still unfolding, and that joy is allowed to exist alongside everything else you feel. Often, a quiet turning point arrives in a single, simple thought: I'm alone, but I'm not unsafe. When that realization settles into the body, even for a moment, something inside begins to loosen. You may still be by yourself, you may still have unanswered questions and unresolved pains, but the sense of danger fades a little. In that softer place, joy no longer feels impossible. It becomes something small and reachable, like a calm breath, or the comfort of lying still under a wide, open sky. The body often understands this shift before the mind does. As the breath slows and deepens, the jaw lets go, the shoulders ease down, and the muscles of the face stop holding their silent tension. When the body relaxes, the emotions it has been carrying can begin to soften too, even if none of the problems in your life have changed yet. You do not have to force this. It happens gradually, as if the nervous system is learning that it is allowed to stand down, allowed to stop bracing for impact. Certain places seem to invite this process more strongly. The Great Smoky Mountains are often described as a place to recharge emotionally, a landscape of quiet cabins, misty ridges, and winding forest trails that hold people through seasons of stress, grief, and exhaustion. Many who visit are not looking for excitement, but for a gentle place to put their feelings down for a while. In that kind of environment, even a slow walk or a still hour on a porch can feel like medicine for a tired heart. Because of this, the Smokies are sometimes called a place to heal in the hills. People travel there after burnout, heartbreak, or big life changes, hoping that the steady presence of the mountains will help them begin again. There is something reassuring about hills that have stood for so long. Their patience suggests that healing does not have to be rushed. You are not late. You are not behind. You are simply here, taking one quiet breath at a time while the land keeps watch around you. Farther west, in the Rocky Mountains and other high ranges, many people describe a similar transformation during solitary hikes and moments of stillness by alpine lakes. Up there, surrounded by stone and sky, the noise of daily life feels very far away. Sitting alone at the edge of clear, cold water, people often say they feel renewed, grounded, and less alone, even when no one else is nearby. The solid weight of the mountains beneath them becomes a reminder that they, too, can endure. Back in the Smokies, guides and visitors often talk about simple experiences that stay in memory for years, standing in the quiet of a solitary sunrise, when the first light touches the ridges, walking beside a gentle creek, listening to water over rocks, watching fireflies blink in the early summer dark. Each of these small moments can turn a lonely heart toward peaceful solitude. In that soft, shared silence between person and landscape, the mind begins to rest, and the body follows, drifting slowly towards sleep. Even in a place as beloved and visited as the Great Smoky Mountains, peaceful isolation is still possible. Not every trail is crowded, and not every overlook is filled with voices. There are quieter areas tucked into the folds of the ridges, lesser-known paths that wind through groves where the only sound is your footsteps on soft earth. In those places, you can feel genuinely alone without feeling lost. The solitude is gentle, not harsh. It wraps around you like the cool air that moves through the valleys at dusk, and in that quiet space, your mind can finally stop performing and simply rest. What happens in these moments is sometimes called nature therapy, and at its heart, it is about sensory immersion. You are not trying to think your way into calm. You are listening to the sound of a stream moving over stones. You are feeling the breeze touch your skin, cool and patient. You are smelling the green scent of moss and bark and rain-soaked soil. You are watching light filter down through the canopy, shifting and soft, painting slow patterns on the ground. Each of these sensations gently pulls your attention away from worry and toward presence. You do not have to force it. The world around you does the work. In some parts of the Smokies, cell service is weak or absent entirely. At first, this might feel inconvenient, even unsettling. But after a little while, that disconnection becomes a gift. Without the constant pull of notifications, messages, and scrolling, your mind begins to quiet. The mental noise fades. You stop checking for updates and start noticing what is actually in front of you, the texture of bark, the way shadow pools beneath a rhododendron, the small persistence of a beetle climbing a root. In that silence, you remember that the world inside your phone is not the only world, and that your attention belongs first to you. One of the gentlest sounds in nature is birdsong. It has been studied many times, and again, researchers find that listening to birds is especially effective at easing stress and annoyance. There is something in the rhythm and tone of their voices that the human nervous system recognizes as safe. When you hear a bird singing in the morning or late afternoon, your body interprets it as a sign that the environment is calm, that there is no immediate danger. In that sense, birdsong becomes a kind of permission to let your guard down, to breathe a little more deeply, and to trust that for this moment, all is well. Water sounds work in a similar way. Whether it is the low murmur of a creek, the steady rush of a waterfall, or the soft lap of a lake against the shore, water has a way of boosting positive emotions like tranquility. The sound is rhythmic and predictable, which helps the mind settle into a peaceful pattern. It does not demand anything from you. It simply continues, flowing and constant, and as you listen, your thoughts begin to flow with it, less tangled, less urgent. You do not have to solve anything right now. You can just be here, beside the water, letting its voice carry some of the weight you have been holding. Even when the world is not perfectly quiet, even when there are other people nearby or distant traffic hums in the background, natural sounds can still help you feel calmer and less annoyed. The human voice or the noise of machines might usually grate on your nerves, but when those sounds are softened by wind in the trees or the chatter of a stream, they become less sharp. Nature has a way of blending and cushioning everything, turning what might feel intrusive into something more tolerable. You do not have to retreat to absolute silence to find peace. Sometimes, peace is simply the gentle dominance of natural rhythms over human ones. This is why it can be so powerful to seek out what some call pockets of quiet inside even the busiest parks. You do not always have to travel far or hike for hours. Sometimes, walking just a few steps off the main path, sitting on a rock that faces away from the trail, or finding a bench tucked beneath low branches is enough. In those small refuges, the noise of the world dims, and the restorative quality of the place becomes more vivid. The shift is subtle, but it is real. Your shoulders drop. Your breathing evens out. The tightness in your chest loosens just a little. There is a practice, originally from Japan, called forest bathing, and it is built on this same gentle idea. You are not hiking with a goal or rushing to a destination. You are simply walking slowly, noticing tiny details, the way moss grows on the north side of a tree, the small curl of a fern frond, the shimmer of sunlight on a spider's web. This kind of noticing does not tire you out. Instead, it supports relaxation and lifts your mood, because it draws your mind into the present moment without asking it to solve, judge, or plan. You are simply here, awake to what is, and that is enough. The Great Smoky Mountains are widely recognized as one of the best places in the country for this kind of restorative forest therapy. The biodiversity is remarkable, more tree species than in all of Europe, countless wildflowers, clear streams, and thick, layered canopies that create a sense of shelter even when you are outdoors. The scenery itself seems designed to calm, soft ridges layered into the distance, mist rising in the mornings, the quiet hum of life all around you. People come here not just to see beauty, but to let beauty work on them, to let it soothe what words cannot reach. When you sit still in a place like this, when the environment feels safe and the sounds around you are steady and soft, something shifts inside. Sitting still and listening can become a form of meditation, not because you are trying to empty your mind, but because your mind naturally begins to settle. The thoughts still come, but they move more slowly, less urgently. You hear the wind. You hear your own breath. You hear the creak a little ways down the slope. And in that listening, without effort or intention, you begin to rest. Not just your body, but the part of you that has been working so hard to hold everything together. Here, in this quiet, you can finally let go. There's a feeling that arrives when you stand on a mountain overlook at twilight, or when you look up at a night sky so full of stars that you lose count within seconds. That feeling is called awe. It is not quite happiness, and it is not quite peace. It is something larger and quieter. It is the sense that you are small, but not insignificant. That your worries are real, but not the entire story. Awe is a way of gently shrinking personal problems, not by erasing them, but by placing them inside a much wider frame. The mountain was here long before your heartbreak. The stars will still be shining long after your anxiety has faded. And somehow, that perspective does not make you feel helpless. It makes you feel held. This is one reason mountain landscapes are so often described as places of relaxation and renewal. The vastness does something to the nervous system. It loosens the grip of rumination. It reminds you that the world is bigger than the small, tight circles your thoughts have been running. When you feel awe, your body softens. Your breath deepens. The knot in your chest loosens just a little. You are still yourself, with all your questions and all your burdens, but for a moment, you are also part of something ancient and unhurried, and that brings a strange, quiet comfort. For some people, this comfort deepens into something even more surprising. They begin to feel at home in wilderness. Not in the sense of walls and a roof, but in the sense of belonging. Research suggests that this kind of belonging to a place can support well-being just as much as belonging to people. When you walk the same ridge over and over, when you know which trees lean into the wind and where the moss grows thickest, the land begins to know you back. You are not a stranger here. You are part of the pattern. And in that recognition, loneliness can begin to ease, because you are never truly alone when the world around you feels like home. Some people go further and describe the mountains themselves as a kind of companion presence. The peaks do not judge. They do not demand conversation. They do not require you to explain yourself or perform a version of yourself that is easier for others to accept. They simply stand, steady and patient, while you sit in their shadow and breathe. When you feel alone in a painful way, this kind of companionship can be deeply healing. The mountain does not leave. It does not grow tired of you. It stays, holding space, and that constancy becomes a quiet form of love. Those who live in mountain solitude for long stretches of time often describe it as a way to recharge energy and let thoughts flow freely. What might feel like loneliness in the city becomes intentional reflection in the mountains. The silence is no longer something to fill or escape. It becomes a canvas on which your mind can finally stretch out and breathe. Without the constant noise of other people's needs and opinions, you begin to hear your own voice again. Not the voice that tries to please or protect, but the one that knows what you truly want, what you truly feel, and what you truly need. Living in an isolated mountain cabin can foster what some call psychological peace. When no one is watching, when there is no audience and no expectation, you are free to live an unobserved life. You wake when your body wakes. You eat when you are hungry. You work at tasks that are simple and immediate, like splitting wood or carrying water, and those tasks ground you in the present moment. There is no performance, no pretending. Just you, the land, and the slow rhythm of days. In that simplicity, a deep inner calm can take root, the kind that comes not from having everything figured out, but from finally being allowed to stop trying. The isolation of mountains also empowers a kind of self-focus that is rare in everyday life. Without the constant pull of work, social media, and other people's emergencies, you have space to ask yourself harder questions. What actually matters to me? What do I want my life to feel like? What am I carrying that I no longer need to carry? In the quiet of the peaks, these questions do not feel overwhelming. They feel like invitations. And slowly, day by day, you begin to redefine your priorities and build resilience, not by forcing yourself to be stronger, but by letting go of what was never yours to hold in the first place. There is a story of a woman who lived alone in a Colorado mountain cabin for 28 years. She did not set out to become a hermit. Life simply brought her there, and she stayed. She described how the manual work of her days, especially splitting wood, deepened her connection to the land in ways she had never expected. The repetition, the rhythm, the quiet satisfaction of stacking split logs against the coming winter, all of it became a form of prayer. What began as unexpected isolation slowly transformed into spiritual fulfillment. She was not running from the world. She was walking towards something truer, something that could only be found in the silence between one breath and the next. Other solo mountain dwellers speak of how their daily rituals shift over time. The sunrise stops being just a moment of beauty and becomes something you wait for, something you witness with gratitude. Trail exploration is no longer exercise. It is communion. You are not hiking to burn calories or reach a summit. You are learning the shape of the land, the way a spouse learns the shape of a beloved face. Loneliness fades, and in its place comes curiosity, tenderness, and a sense of marriage to the landscape itself. You belong to it, and it belongs to you, and that bond is as real as any human love. Even those who only visit the mountains for short stretches can taste this kind of transformation. Solo travelers in the Smoky Mountains often describe gaining confidence and independence simply from setting their own pace on trails like Clingman's Dome. There is no one to keep up with, no one to impress, no one to apologize to if you need to stop and rest. You walk as slowly or as quickly as your body wants. You pause when something catches your attention. You turn back if you feel like turning back. In that freedom, alone time stops feeling like a punishment or a void. It becomes joyful. It becomes a gift you give yourself, over and over, with every step you take into the quiet green world. There is a story of a solo camper who went into the Colorado Rockies after a difficult breakup. They did not go looking for answers. They went because they could not stand the noise of their own thoughts anymore, and the mountains seemed like the only place vast enough to hold the weight of what they were feeling. For 5 days, they stayed above the clouds, alone with cold mornings, unpredictable weather, physical exhaustion, and the simple challenge of staying warm and fed. And somewhere in that mix of cold, chaos, and sweat, something shifted. They did not find closure. They did not suddenly feel healed. But they found what they later called okayness. A quiet acceptance that they were still here, still breathing, still capable of taking care of themselves. Grief was still there, but so was peace, and that was enough. Travel writers who spend time in the mountains often describe moments like this. Sitting on a smoky mountain overlook at dusk, with no sound except the wind moving through the trees and the soft pulse of crickets beginning their evening song, they suddenly realize they are not lonely. They are grateful. Grateful for the stillness, for the beauty, for the simple fact that they are alive and able to witness this quiet hour. It is not dramatic. It is not a revelation that changes everything. But it is real, and it stays with them long after they leave the ridge and return to ordinary life. Many mountain retreats are built around this idea of emotional healing through journaling and introspection. The quiet landscape becomes a container for whatever needs to be released. Anger, sadness, regret, fear, all of it can be written down on paper and left there, held by the trees and the sky. When you are surrounded by silence and beauty, it becomes a little easier to look at the parts of yourself you have been avoiding. The mountains do not judge what you write. They simply stand witness. And in that witnessing, something softens. Negativity begins to lose its grip. Space opens up for positive change, not because you forced it, but because you finally gave yourself permission to feel what you feel without shame. Writing can be a powerful tool in this process. When loneliness feels shapeless and overwhelming, putting words on a page can turn it into a story with a beginning, a middle, and a next step. You are not just suffering. You are moving through something. There was a time before this feeling. There will be a time after it. And right now, you are somewhere in between. That structure does not erase the pain, but it makes it more bearable. It reminds you that you are not frozen in place. You are still walking forward, even if the steps are slow and uncertain. Gratitude, too, has a way of appearing more easily after the nervous system downshifts. When you have been walking quietly for an hour, or sitting still by a stream, or simply breathing deeply under a wide sky, your body begins to let go of the constant alertness it has been holding. The fight or flight response fades. Your heart rate slows. Your mind stops scanning for threats. And in that softer, calmer state, gratitude can rise to the surface without effort. You notice the warmth of the sun on your arms. You appreciate the way the light falls through the leaves. You feel thankful, not for anything grand, but for small, tender things. And that thankfulness, however brief, is a form of joy. This is also when it becomes possible to speak to yourself with more kindness. Harsh thoughts often feel loud and convincing, especially when you are alone and tired. But gentle self-talk can replace those thoughts the way a warm voice replaces silence. You do not have to believe the cruelest version of your own story. You can offer yourself the same patience you would offer a friend. You can say, quietly, you are doing the best you can. You are allowed to rest. You are not as broken as you feel. And in the quiet of the mountains, where no one else is listening, those words can begin to take root. Researchers have studied something called the wilderness solo, which is an intentional practice of spending time alone outdoors as a form of therapy. It is not about survival skills or adventure. It is about silence, solitude, and the spaciousness that comes when you remove yourself from constant input and interaction. Studies show that this kind of intentional aloneness can support therapeutic outcomes and personal growth. It allows people to face what they have been avoiding, to grieve what needs to be grieved, and to discover strengths they did not know they had. The wilderness does not fix you, but it gives you room to begin fixing yourself. This is the heart of what modern nature therapy in the Smoky Mountains is trying to offer. Guides and facilitators explicitly encourage people to reframe solitude as a gift rather than a punishment. They invite you to listen to the sound of streams moving over rocks, to feel the wind on your skin, to notice birdsong as a sign that life is all around you, constant and patient. You are not abandoned. You are surrounded. The world is still here, still breathing, still holding you, and in that presence, you can begin to soften and heal. This understanding is not new. Traditional stories from the Appalachian and Smoky Mountain region are full of characters who retreat into the hills when life becomes too heavy. They go seeking healing, or guidance, or simply a place to catch their breath. And when they return, they are different. Not always louder or happier, but stronger. More centered. More clear about who they are and what they need. The mountains do not give easy answers. They give space, and time, and silence, and sometimes, that is all a person needs to remember their own strength. American frontier and mountain folklore is full of these same themes. Broken hearts, exhausted pioneers, and spiritual seekers all find their way into the high, quiet places, and there, in the silence and beauty of the land, they find unexpected comfort. The mountains do not demand anything. They do not ask you to prove yourself or explain your pain. They simply exist, vast and patient, and in that existence, they offer a kind of shelter that cannot be found anywhere else. A shelter not made of walls, but of stillness, of distance, of the slow, steady rhythm of a world that has been here long before you and will remain long after. And in that rhythm, if you listen closely, you can hear the quiet promise that you, too, will endure. For many native peoples and long-time mountain communities, the high places have always been more than scenery. They are sacred. They are where prayers are heard more clearly, where the boundary between the human world and the spirit world feels thinner. In these traditions, simply being present with the ridgelines, the trees, and the wide sky is not a passive act. It is a form of communion. You do not have to say anything or do anything special. You only have to be there, open and quiet, and in that presence, something inside you can begin to realign. Inner balance returns. Joy, which may have felt impossibly distant, becomes reachable again, not because you chased it, but because you allowed the land to hold you long enough for it to find you. Stories from the Blue Ridge and Appalachian Mountains often tell of lost hikers or wanderers who, after spending nights alone in the wilderness, come down changed. They gain clarity about relationships that have been tangled for years. They understand, suddenly and completely, what they believe and why. They discover a sense of personal calling they had been searching for without knowing where to look. The mountains do not give these answers directly. Instead, they strip away distraction, noise, and pretense. What is left is the truth, and in the quiet dark of a mountain night, that truth becomes impossible to ignore. American mountain folklore has long portrayed the ridgelines and valleys as teachers. A sudden storm teaches humility and respect. A sunrise after a cold night teaches hope. An encounter with a deer or a hawk teaches patience and presence. These are not lessons delivered in words. They are lessons felt in the body, learned through experience, and remembered long after the moment has passed. The mountains mirror whatever you are carrying inside. If you are struggling, they show you struggle. If you are beginning to heal, they show you beauty. And in that mirroring, you begin to see yourself more clearly, and with that clarity comes the possibility of joy. There is a concept, borrowed from Celtic spirituality and woven into the fabric of American mountain culture, called thin places. These are locations where the visible and invisible worlds seem to meet, where the veil between matter and spirit feels delicate and permeable. In the mountains, these thin places are not marked with signs. They are felt. A certain overlook at twilight. A hollow where fog gathers in the morning. A grove of old trees that seems to hold its breath. People who seek solace alone are often drawn to these places without knowing why. And there, in that quiet threshold space, they find something they cannot name but recognize instantly. Spiritual fulfillment. A sense of being seen and held by something far older and kinder than human judgment. And with that recognition comes a deep, quiet joy. Long before modern therapy, Appalachian communities relied on what were called mountain doctors or granny women. These healers gathered herbs from the hills and knew which plants could ease pain, reduce fever, or calm a restless heart. But their work was never only physical. They offered emotional and spiritual guidance as well. When someone came to them carrying grief or loneliness, the healer did not separate body from mind from spirit. They treated the whole person. A tea for the nerves. A prayer spoken softly. A listening ear. In that holistic care, people found not just relief, but a way back to themselves. These folk healers understood that loneliness is not just an absence of people. It is a disconnection from the self, from the land, from the rhythms of life. And so they blended plant medicine with counseling, offering both the practical and the sacred. They helped people find balance again. They reminded them that they were not alone, that they were part of a community, even in the most remote valleys. That sense of belonging, of being woven into something larger, was as healing as any remedy gathered from the forest floor. The wise women and granny healers carried this work for generations. They knew the old songs, the old prayers, the old ways of seeing. They treated emotional wounds with the same care they gave to broken bones. They blended folklore with practical knowledge, and in that blending, they created a kind of medicine that modern language struggles to name. It was not therapy in the clinical sense. It was care. Deep, patient, embodied care. And for people living in isolated mountain communities, that care was often the difference between despair and the slow, steady return of joy. Appalachian folklore is full of warnings, and many of them sound strange to modern ears. Do not answer if you hear your name called in the woods. Do not whistle at night. Do not look directly at certain things you glimpse in the corner of your vision. These warnings were rooted in caution, in the need to stay safe in isolated, unpredictable places. But they also taught something deeper. They taught respect for nature's mysteries. They reminded people that the forest is not just a backdrop. It is alive, layered, full of forces that cannot be controlled or fully understood. And in that humility, in that willingness to admit there are things beyond human knowing, a kind of wisdom grows. A kind of personal insight that can only come from stepping back and listening. Stories of spirits and creatures in the trees were not meant to terrify, though they often did. They were a way for early settlers to make sense of the silence, the vastness, the loneliness of living far from other people. When the wind sounded like voices, when shadows moved in ways that felt intentional, these stories gave shape to the fear. And in giving it shape, they made it manageable. More than that, they helped people discover wonder in the unknown. The forest was not empty. It was full. Full of mystery, full of presence, full of life that moved on rhythms older than memory. And that fullness, however eerie, was also a kind of companionship. Appalachia's long history of isolated cabins and remote valleys created a culture where storytelling was not entertainment. It was survival. It was how knowledge was passed down, how values were taught, how loneliness was transformed into connection. Sitting around a fire or a kitchen table, people told stories about the land, about their ancestors, about the strange and beautiful things they had witnessed. And in the telling, they wove themselves into a lineage. They were not just alone in a cabin on a ridge. They were part of a story that stretched back generations and would continue long after they were gone. And that knowledge, quiet and steady as the mountains themselves, was a deep and lasting comfort. The old Appalachian warning, "Don't look in the trees," is part of a wider web of caution woven into mountain folklore. It was never just about fear. It was about respect. The forest is not a park or a garden. It is wild, layered, and older than the people who walk through it. Looking too closely, staring too long, inviting attention from things you do not understand, these were seen as risky acts. The advice was practical in some ways, rooted in real dangers like bears or unstable terrain. But it also carried a deeper message. Pay attention. Move carefully. The woods are not yours to command. And in that humility, in that willingness to be small and cautious, people found a way to live alongside the wildness without being consumed by it. Other Appalachian superstitions followed the same pattern. Certain nighttime rules, like not whistling after dark or avoiding certain sounds, were ways communities managed fear and uncertainty in places where help was far away and the night was truly dark. These traditions were passed down not as rigid laws, but as shared understandings. If you followed them, you felt a little safer. If you broke them and nothing happened, you still carried the memory of the rule, and that memory connected you to everyone else who had lived in these hills before you. The superstitions were a form of care, a way of saying, "We have been here before you. We learned these things. Let us help you stay safe." Folklore has always had a way of turning ordinary sounds into meaning. A twig snapping in the dark becomes a sign of presence. A sudden shift in the wind becomes a message. When people live far from towns, far from the noise and distraction of other humans, their senses sharpen. The small sounds that city dwellers ignore become loud and significant. And so stories grew around them. Not because people were foolish or superstitious in a dismissive sense, but because the mind needs meaning. It needs to make sense of what it hears and sees. Folklore provided that meaning, and in doing so, it helped people feel less alone. The forest was not empty. It was full of voices, full of warnings, full of company, however strange. In mountain communities, these stories did more than entertain. They functioned like emotional maps, teaching resilience without sounding like a lecture. A story about a person who survived a harsh winter taught preparation and endurance. A tale about someone who got lost but found their way home taught patience and trust. The lessons were never spelled out. They were woven into the narrative, felt rather than explained. And because they were stories, they stayed in memory. They became part of the shared culture, part of the way people understood themselves and their place in the world. When loneliness threatened to overwhelm, these stories reminded you that others had walked this path before, and they had made it through. Some folklore was gentler, even joyful. The Holly King in Appalachian Christmas tales is a figure of blessing and abundance, a mountain spirit who brings joy to homes during the darkest part of the year. These stories were told on long, cold winter nights when families gathered around the fire and the world outside felt distant and silent. The Holly King reminded people of their heritage, of the cycles of the seasons, of the promise that spring would come again. During lonely winter nights, when the darkness felt heavy and endless, these tales brought light. Not the bright, loud light of celebration, but the soft, steady glow of hope and continuity. This same spirit of connection and renewal lives on in the festivals and gatherings that still happen in the mountains. The Mountain Dance and Folk Festival in Asheville, North Carolina, founded in 1928 by Bascom Lamar Lunsford, is the oldest folk festival of its kind. It brings together Appalachian ballad singers, string bands, square dancers, and storytellers, all sharing traditions passed down through Scottish, Irish, and Cherokee heritage. The music is old, the dances are old, but they are not museum pieces. They are living practices, still breathing, still connecting people across generations. To attend is to step into a lineage, to feel yourself held by something much larger than your own small life. In the spring, the Smoky Mountains come alive in a different way. The Spring Wildflower Pilgrimage in Gatlinburg draws people from all over for a week of guided hikes, photography workshops, and nature talks. It is a celebration of biodiversity, of the thousands of species that bloom and unfold in the warming weather. But it is also a blending of science and cultural appreciation. The forest is not just studied. It is loved. It is honored. And in that honoring, people find connection, not just to the land, but to each other. Strangers walk together on trails, share what they see, and leave feeling a little less alone. Summer evenings in Gatlinburg bring another kind of gathering. Smoky Mountain tunes and tales fills the streets with costumed storytellers, musicians, and artisans, all sharing pieces of Appalachian history through folk music, crafts, and spoken word. It is informal, joyful, and deeply rooted in the culture of the place. Children listen wide-eyed to stories their grandparents might have heard. Adults tap their feet to old ballads they have never heard before but somehow recognize. The air smells like wood smoke and blooming rhododendron. And for a few hours, the modern world fades, and what remains is something older, warmer, and far more human. Fall in the mountains is a time of harvest and craft. The Gatlinburg Craftsman's Fair is one of the longest-running events of its kind, showcasing handmade mountain crafts like pottery, blacksmithing, and quilting by local artisans from the Great Smoky arts and crafts community. These are not mass-produced souvenirs. They are objects made by hand, with skill and intention, carrying the marks of the people who made them. To hold a piece of handmade pottery or a hand-stitched quilt is to hold a small piece of someone's attention, someone's care. And in a world that often feels impersonal and rushed, that kind of care is its own form of healing. Spring also brings the May Day Parade and Maypole Dance at the John C. Campbell Folk School, a celebration of renewal and rebirth rooted in Celtic and Appalachian traditions. There is costuming, ribbon dances, puppets, and merrymaking. It is bright, playful, and deeply symbolic. The maypole itself represents the turning of the seasons, the return of light and warmth after the long, cold months. To dance around it, weaving ribbons in and out, is to participate in something ancient and hopeful. It is a reminder that life continues, that joy returns, and that even in the loneliest winters, spring is always waiting just beyond the ridge. In the Rocky Mountains, long before modern trails and visitor centers, indigenous peoples traveled sacred paths through the high country. The Ute and Arapaho used trails like the Ute Trail and Tonahuda Trail not just for travel, but for spiritual journeys. These were pilgrimage routes, places where the physical and spiritual worlds overlapped. Today, artifacts and oral histories are preserved in national park museums, reminding us that these mountains have always been more than scenery. They have been places of prayer, vision, and transformation for thousands of years. To walk those trails now is to step into a story much older and deeper than our own. Throughout the Rocky Mountain region, communities still gather to celebrate their heritage in ways that honor the past while embracing the present. The Montana Folk Festival is a multi-stage outdoor music event featuring traditional performers from across the region. There is ethnic food, art markets, and folk life demonstrations that showcase the rich diversity of mountain culture. It is loud, joyful, and deeply human. Strangers share meals, children dance to music they have never heard before, and for a few days, the mountains echo with song and laughter, reminding everyone that culture is not something frozen in time. It is alive, evolving, and always being passed forward. In Colorado, the Telluride Bluegrass Festival has become world famous, drawing musicians and listeners from everywhere. But at its heart, it remains rooted in mountain folk traditions. Old-time string music, community camping, storytelling around fires, these are not just performances. They are practices. They are ways of being together. The festival is a reminder that music is not just entertainment. It is connection. It is memory. It is the sound of people choosing, again and again, to gather and share something beautiful, even in a world that often feels fractured and isolating. Mountain families have always known how to survive long winters. Food preservation customs like canning, drying, root cellaring, and pickling were not just practical. They were communal. Families and neighbors would gather for canning days, sharing recipes, stories, and labor. These seasonal gatherings turned survival into something warm and social. The work was hard, but it was also joyful, because it was done together. And in those moments, loneliness had no room to take root. You were part of something larger, something necessary, something that would carry everyone through the cold months ahead. In remote coves and valleys, where churches were few and far between, people created their own gatherings. Brush arbor revivals and shape note singing brought communities together for outdoor preaching, gospel singing using old hymnals, and communal meals. These were not fancy services. They were raw, honest, and deeply felt. People sang with their whole bodies, voices rising and falling in harmonies that felt older than words. And after the singing, there was food, conversation, and the quiet comfort of knowing you were not alone in your struggles or your faith. The Mountain Life Festival at Great Smoky Mountains National Park continues this tradition of communal learning and celebration. Every fall, there are living history demonstrations of sorghum milling, hearth cooking, apple butter making, cider pressing, broom crafting, and hominy preparation. Cherokee cultural exhibits are part of the program, honoring the original inhabitants of these hills. It is hands-on, sensory, and deeply grounding. You smell the wood smoke. You taste the fresh cider. You watch skilled hands shaping brooms from broomcorn. And in that watching, you remember that these mountains have always been lived in, worked in, loved by people who knew how to turn simple materials into beauty and sustenance. October brings fall foliage viewing in the Wears Valley Fall Fest, a countryside fair that feels like stepping into a gentler, slower time. There are handmade goods, live Appalachian music, fresh mountain treats, and the simple pleasure of being outdoors during the most beautiful season. The leaves blaze red and gold. The air is cool and clear. And for a few hours, surrounded by music and color and the smell of kettle corn, the world feels manageable again. You are not alone. You are part of a community that gathers, year after year, to celebrate the turning of the seasons. Spring in Gatlinburg brings Hands-on Gatlinburg Weekend, when artists from the Great Smoky arts and crafts community open their studios for interactive workshops. You can try your hand at pottery, blacksmithing, weaving, or woodworking. You can watch skilled artisans at work and ask questions. There is something deeply satisfying about making something with your hands, even if it is imperfect. It grounds you. It reminds you that you are capable, that you can create, that you have something to offer the world. And in those moments, loneliness loosens its grip, because you are doing something real, something that connects you to a long tradition of making and crafting. January 6th is Old Christmas in Appalachia, an observance that follows the Julian calendar, recalling a time before the calendar shift of 1752. It is marked by quiet reflection, folklore superstitions, and family gatherings. There is no rush, no commercialism. Just the slow, steady warmth of being with people you love, telling stories, and honoring the old ways. In a world that often feels too fast and too loud, Old Christmas is a reminder that you can choose to move slowly, to savor small rituals, to honor the past without being trapped by it. Appalachian Christmas tree cutting is another tradition that turns a simple task into a communal adventure. Families hike into forests like the Nantahala or Cherokee National Forest to cut their own trees. There is caroling, laughter, and the shared work of carrying the tree back home. Later, everyone gathers to decorate it together. It is not about perfection. It is about presence. About being together in the cold mountain air, about choosing a tree that is uniquely yours, about the warmth of coming inside afterward and stringing lights while someone makes hot chocolate and the world outside grows dark and quiet. In Estes Park, near Rocky Mountain National Park, the First Peoples Festival honors the mountain heritage of the Ute, Arapaho, and other tribes through music, dance, storytelling, and cultural events. It is a celebration of survival, resilience, and living culture. These are not relics of the past. They are people who are here, now, continuing traditions that have been passed down for generations. To witness their dances, to hear their stories, is to be reminded that these mountains have always been home to people who understood how to live in relationship with the land, with each other, and with the sacred. In the Denver area, the Tesoro Cultural Center hosts an Indian market and ceremonial dance every June, gathering over 40 indigenous nations to share art, dance, and demonstrations tied to Rocky Mountain tribal histories. It is vast, colorful, and deeply moving. You can see beadwork, pottery, textiles, and paintings. You can watch ceremonial dances that tell stories of creation, survival, and renewal. And in that gathering, you feel the weight and beauty of cultures that have endured despite everything, that have chosen, again and again, to pass forward their knowledge, their beauty, their joy. Central Wyoming College hosts a Native American festival that brings together knowledge keepers from Wind River, Fort Hall, Pine Ridge, and other communities across the Rocky Mountain West. It is a multi-tribal event, filled with dance, history, and the quiet power of elder voices sharing what they know. These festivals are not performances for outsiders. They are acts of cultural preservation, of teaching the next generation, of saying, we are still here. We are still strong. And we have something to offer the world. In older times, mountain communities practiced reciprocal labor exchanges like corn shuckings and barn raisings. When someone needed help, neighbors gathered. The work was hard, but it was also social. There was music, competition, meals, and laughter. No one was paid. The payment was knowing that when you needed help, others would come for you. This practice turned survival into connection. It reminded people that they were not isolated individuals struggling alone. They were part of a web of mutual care, and that web could hold them through almost anything. Winter in Gatlinburg brings the winter magic holiday lights and parades, a festival of seasonal displays, Christmas parades, and community gatherings. Millions of lights transform the town into something warm and glowing. Families walk the streets bundled in coats, drinking hot cider, watching parades go by. It is not sophisticated or subtle. It is simple, bright, and joyful. And for people who have been lonely through the darker months, it is a reminder that light returns, that communities gather, and that celebration is always possible, even in the coldest season. Appalachian road trip guides often mention something unexpected, chance encounters with strangers that turn solo journeys into joyful memories. Sharing a fire at a campsite, trading stories with someone passing through, these moments remind you that loneliness can open doors to new connections. When you are alone and open, you notice people more. You are more willing to say hello, to sit down, to listen. And sometimes, those brief encounters stay with you longer than planned events ever do. Many campers in the Smoky Mountains leave with what they describe as full hearts and lifelong friends. Shared solitude in nature has a way of bonding people quickly and deeply. You meet someone on a trail, or at a campfire, or in a shelter during a storm, and something shifts. You are no longer strangers. You are people who have witnessed the same beauty, endured the same cold, laughed at the same small absurdities. And in that shared experience, loneliness transforms into meaningful bonds that can last for years. Healthcare guides increasingly recommend short mountain getaways as a simple mental health tool. Even one weekend of hiking, stargazing, and sitting by a campfire can significantly lift mood. It is not a cure for everything, but it is accessible, affordable, and effective. The mountains do not ask you to explain yourself. They simply offer space, beauty, and quiet. And for many people, that is exactly what they need to remember, that they are more than their worries, more than their loneliness, more than the small, tight circles their thoughts have been running. Articles about living in U.S. mountain states often note higher reported happiness and life satisfaction. Part of this is the regular access to outdoor spaces and the constant presence of mountain views. When you can see the peaks from your window, when you can walk into the hills whenever you need to breathe, isolation feels different. It is not abandonment. It is choice. It is the freedom to be alone without being trapped, to seek solitude without losing connection to the world. Rocky Mountain retreats have become known for aiding recovery from substance abuse and mental health struggles. They foster self-reflection in tranquil settings, helping people detach from the chaos of their old patterns and reconnect with what truly matters. The mountains do not fix anyone, but they provide a container for healing. They offer distance, perspective, and the steady reminder that life is bigger than the struggles that have consumed you. Outdoor group activities in the Rockies, from guided hikes to wilderness therapy programs, build teamwork and adaptability. They show how time in nature can reveal hidden strengths and reduce feelings of isolation. When you are navigating a trail with others, setting up camp together, or simply sitting in silence around a fire, you begin to see yourself more clearly. You realize you are capable. You realize you are not as alone as you thought. And that realization can change everything. Mountain wellness retreats emphasize presence and awareness, helping people collapse outdated patterns and move from loneliness to empowerment. The work is not just mental. It is embodied. You feel your feet on the ground. You notice your breath. You let the landscape hold you while you do the hard work of healing. And slowly, with the peaks as witnesses, you begin to reclaim your own strength. Mountaineering itself teaches resilience and self-discovery. Climbing peaks like Everest mirrors overcoming life's emotional challenges through preparation, adaptability, and persistence. You do not summit because you are fearless. You summit because you have learned to manage fear, to keep moving even when it is hard, to trust your training and your team. And when you return, you carry that lesson with you. If you can do this, you can do anything. Scenic relaxation videos featuring American mountains often use narratives of letting go, starting over, and healing in the hills. These stories resonate because they reflect something true. Viewers connect with them not because they are dramatic, but because they are gentle. They say, you are allowed to rest. You are allowed to begin again. The mountains are here, and they will hold you. Many of these videos include short on-screen messages like you are not alone or the mountains are with you. Research shows that audiences respond deeply to these gentle reassurances when paired with nature visuals. It is not manipulative. It is kind. It is the digital equivalent of a hand on the shoulder, a quiet voice saying, I see you. You are going to be okay. Slow scenic mountain videos work because the brain does not need to track fast motion. There are no sudden cuts, no loud sounds, no surprises. The visuals are dark, steady, and minimal. Mist, moonlight, still trees, a fixed overlook. This kind of content supports winding down because it does not demand anything from you. You can watch, or you can close your eyes. Either way, you are held. A calming mountain story often works best when it alternates short, quiet facts with longer gaps of pure ambience. The words give your mind something gentle to hold onto. The silence gives it space to rest. Together, they create a rhythm that mimics the natural flow of thought as you drift towards sleep. Listening for patterns, crickets, owls, The sound of water gives the mind structure without forcing it to solve anything. You are not being tested. You are simply noticing. And in that noticing, the nervous system can finally let go of its vigilance and settle into rest. The most sleep-friendly soundscapes are consistent and avoid sudden spikes. No thunder cracks. No startling bird calls. Just the steady, predictable rhythm of night in the mountains. This consistency tells your body that it is safe to sleep, that nothing will jar you awake, that you can let go completely. Repeating a gentle evening routine, tea, a blanket, low light, and nature audio can train the brain to associate night with safety and rest. Over time, the routine becomes a signal. Your body knows what comes next. And in that knowing, sleep becomes easier. For some people, loneliness feels louder at night. The silence amplifies every worry, every regret. But steady natural sound helps by giving the mind a soft, predictable focus. It is not loud enough to distract, but it is present enough to fill the empty space. And in that gentle presence, loneliness loses some of its power. The phrase "the mountains are holding you" is not just poetic. It matches the core idea of nature therapy, that the environment can support you when human support is not available. You are not floating in a void. You are resting on solid ground, beneath a wide sky, held by something ancient and patient. Healing narratives often feel best when they move from the external scene to the internal one. We start with the forest, the creek, the ridge. And then, slowly, we move inward. To the breath. To the heart. To the quiet place inside where healing begins. This movement mirrors the process of falling asleep, where the outer world fades and the inner world softens. Hope can be delivered softly. Not everything is fixed, but rest is allowed tonight. You do not have to have all the answers. You do not have to be healed by morning. You only have to rest. And that rest, however brief, is a form of care. Reassurance phrases like "you're safe" or "you can let go now" are most effective when used sparingly. Too many, and they start to feel forced. But a few, placed gently, can land exactly where they are needed, like a hand steadying you in the dark. A gentle ending can be an invitation to return. Come back tomorrow. This is not a demand. It is an offer. The mountains will still be here. The story will still be here. You can rest now, and when you are ready, you can come back. A closing cue can return the listener to the present moment. Feel the pillow beneath your head. Hear the stream in the distance. Soften your breath. Let your body sink a little deeper. You do not have to do anything else. You are here. You are safe. And that is enough. If sleep does not come, peace still counts. Resting the mind is progress. You do not have to force it. You can simply lie here, breathing, listening, allowing yourself to be held by the sound and the dark and the quiet knowledge that you are doing your best. Over time, repeated mountain soundscapes can become a comforting ritual, like revisiting the same overlook in memory. You know this place. You have been here before. And in that familiarity, there is safety. There is rest. There is the quiet promise that no matter how lonely the night feels, you are never truly alone. The mountains are with you. and they will hold you through until morning.